The night was alive with celebration. All across Earth, people gathered to honor the annual Unity Festival. It was a tradition that symbolized the triumph of humanity over the crises that once divided them: wars, environmental disasters, and pandemics. The air was filled with the laughter of children and the hum of conversation. Skies sparkled with fireworks, their colors reflecting in the rivers and oceans. Everywhere, cities were lit up, music playing from every corner. In New York, holographic displays danced in sync with the fireworks. In Tokyo, drones painted glowing patterns in the sky. In Nairobi, families shared stories under the stars, their campfires crackling softly. The festival was a moment of peace, a reminder of what humanity could achieve when united. Captain Elena Marcus sat in her remote outpost, watching the celebration through a live feed on her monitor. Though far from the bustling cities, she felt the joy radiating from the screen. Elena was a seasoned officer in Earth's planetary defense force, stationed in an isolated bunker deep in the Rocky Mountains. Her team had been monitoring unusual signals for weeks, but nothing conclusive had surfaced. Just as Elena leaned back to sip her coffee, the feed flickered. Static crackled across the screen. The music and laughter abruptly cut off, replaced by a low, vibrating hum. She straightened, her senses on high alert. Outside, the stars seemed to vanish. People tilted their heads to the sky, their faces painted with confusion and unease. In place of the stars, an enormous shadow began to spread, like ink blotting out the heavens. Then it appeared. A colossal alien warship, its metallic surface glinting faintly as it broke through the atmosphere. The vessel was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It was impossibly large, dwarfing entire cities, with edges that seemed to shimmer and bend as if the ship was partially cloaked. Panic erupted in an instant. The festival transformed into chaos as people screamed and ran in all directions. The ship emitted a deep, resonating sound, vibrating through the air and ground, causing glass to shatter in buildings. Then came the voice, calm yet cold, booming from the skies and carried through every device on Earth. Humanity, you are unworthy. Surrender or face extinction. Elena's heart sank. She had read reports about hostile extraterrestrial forces, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. Her comms unit crackled to life as her team scrambled for answers. "Ma'am, we're picking up energy signatures, orbital bombardments." The screen switched to a live satellite feed. Her stomach tightened. Beams of energy rained down from the alien ship, striking major cities with pinpoint precision. Skyscrapers disintegrated into ash. Bridges collapsed like toys. Each beam left a glowing crater where life once thrived. Elena clenched her fists. The lines on her face deepened as she stared at the destruction. "Get me a line to Central Command," she barked. But before her team could respond, the bunker shook violently. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling. They were under attack. A garbled transmission came through. "This is Resistance HQ. They're everywhere, but we will not yield." The line went dead. Her lieutenant turned to her, fear in his eyes. "What do we do, Captain?" Elena's voice was steady, though her mind raced. "We do what we've trained for. Evacuate the bunker. Take only what we need. We regroup and fight back." As the ground trembled again, Elena grabbed a pack filled with essential gear and led her team to an underground tram system designed for emergencies. The tram was their only chance to escape unnoticed. The journey through the underground tunnels was suffocatingly quiet. The only sounds were the low rumble of the tram and the distant explosions above. Elena sat by a small window, peering through a crack that allowed a view of the surface. What she saw stole her breath. Cities burned, their smoke rising to choke the already darkened sky. Alien drones hovered like predatory birds, scanning for survivors. She could make out shapes of people running, their silhouettes illuminated by flames. Her chest tightened, but she pushed the despair aside. "This isn't over," she whispered to herself. "If this is the end, we'll make them remember it." The tram slowed as it approached a hidden safe zone deep within the mountains. Alina stood, her resolve hardening. The Velkir may have brought their superior technology and their arrogance, but they would soon learn what it meant to face the indomitable spirit of humanity. The Velkir invasion wasn't just about destruction, it was systematic. The machine-like overlords had no interest in Earth's resources or wealth. Their purpose was cruel and detached. They wanted to study humans. Cities became vast hunting grounds where Velkir drones scanned for survivors. Those captured were rounded up into massive containment zones, not for enslavement but for experimentation. The Velkir, led by their artificial intelligence Supremus, sought to test human endurance under relentless oppression. Supremus, a towering AI with a cold, analytical voice, processed vast amounts of data at once. It viewed humans not as individuals but as a flawed collective, a species plagued by emotions, chaos, and inefficiency. Human resistance is futile. Supremus declared across the Velkir network. They will break under the weight of their own weaknesses. But humans were not as predictable as the Velkir believed. In the ruins of what was once a thriving city, Alina Marquez and a group of survivors had taken refuge. The air was thick with ash and the distant hum of alien patrols. Despite the dire situation, Alina's eyes were sharp and her tone commanding. She had already rallied a small band of fighters, ranging from ex-soldiers to ordinary civilians determined to survive. During a scouting mission, Alina's team stumbled upon a hidden bunker buried beneath a collapsed skyscraper. Inside, they discovered an old AI cloaking device, a relic from Earth's defense experiments decades ago. The device, though damaged, had the potential to mask human movements and confuse Velkir sensors. It was their first real chance to strike back. "This changes everything," Alina said, her voice steady but laced with determination. "We can't outgun them, but we can outthink them." As the group worked tirelessly to repair the device, tensions ran high. Supplies were running low, and every day brought news of more cities falling. The Velkir's relentless pursuit made every step dangerous. Scouts risked their lives retrieving components or gathering intelligence. One of these scouts was Bonner, a young soldier who had joined Alina's group after losing his family in the initial attacks. Bonner was fiercely loyal and had an unshakable optimism that inspired others. He often joked to lighten the mood, even when the situation seemed hopeless. "They've got fancy ships and shiny toys," he'd say, "but we've got stubbornness, and stubbornness always wins." One evening, the group received intelligence about a Velkir supply convoy transporting critical energy cores. These cores powered their drones and weapons. Disrupting the supply line could slow the Velkir advance, giving the resistance a fighting chance. But the convoy was heavily guarded, and the mission was risky. "I'll go," Bonner volunteered without hesitation. Alina frowned, her instincts screaming against the decision. "This isn't a solo mission, Bonner. You're not invincible." He grinned, that same reckless confidence shining through. "I'm not planning on getting caught, Captain. Besides, someone's got to show these tin cans what humans are made of." Despite her reservations, Alina allowed him to go, assigning 2 others to accompany him. The mission was executed under the cover of darkness, with the cloaking device masking their movements. Bonner and his team managed to reach the convoy undetected, planting explosives on the energy cores. But as they retreated, the device malfunctioned, exposing their location to nearby patrols. The Velkir descended on them with brutal efficiency. Realizing escape was impossible, Bonner made a split-second decision. He ordered his teammates to flee while he stayed behind to cover their retreat. Armed with little more than a rifle and a handful of grenades, he faced the overwhelming force head-on. Back at the hideout, Alina and the others waited anxiously for news. When the surviving scouts returned, they carried a small data drive Bonner had left behind. Alina's chest tightened as she inserted it into a terminal. The screen lit up with Bonner's face, dirt-smeared and bruised but defiant. His voice was steady, though the sound of explosions echoed in the background. If you're watching this, it means I didn't make it back. That's okay. This fight isn't about me. It's about us. What we stand for. We fight, not just for survival, but because giving up would mean betraying everything we are. And we're better than that. Tell my mom I love her. And tell the Velker. They picked the wrong species to mess with. The room fell silent as the message ended. Some wiped away tears, while others stared at the ground, fists clenched in anger. Elena stood, her voice firm but heavy with emotion. Bonner gave his life, so we could keep fighting. We owe it to him, and to everyone we've lost, to make it count. The group redoubled their efforts, repairing the cloaking device and planning their next move. Bonner's sacrifice became a rallying cry, igniting a fire in the hearts of the resistance. The Velker had underestimated humanity, thinking them fragile and easily broken. But as Elena's group prepared for their next strike, it became clear that humans had something the Velker couldn't quantify. An unyielding spirit, forged in the face of adversity. And that spirit was about to make the Velker learn the hardest lesson of all. The resistance was no longer just surviving. They were fighting back. Elena and her team had adapted quickly to the overwhelming odds, using ingenuity and sheer determination to counter the Velker's advanced technology. With their cloaking device repaired, the team began a series of carefully planned attacks on the Velker's resource collection units. The Velker relied heavily on automated drones and mechanical constructs to harvest resources and maintain their war effort. These units operated with surgical precision, but lacked the adaptability to respond to unconventional tactics. Elena saw this as an opportunity. One evening, the team set their sights on a Velker processing plant located on the outskirts of a ruined city. The plant was heavily guarded by towering insect-like machines that scanned the perimeter with glowing red eyes. The Velker believed their defenses were impenetrable, but Elena had other plans. Using salvaged parts and improvised tools, the resistance created distractions to lure the machines away. Homemade noise emitters, timed explosives, and carefully laid traps caused chaos among the Velker forces. While the machines moved to investigate the disturbances, Elena's team slipped into the heart of the facility. Inside, the air was cold and sterile, humming with the sound of alien machinery. The team worked quickly, planting explosives at key points while gathering intel on Velker operations. Tensions ran high as every second increased the risk of detection. The mission took a sudden turn when a patrol of Velker soldiers discovered their presence. Unlike the drones, these soldiers were humanoid but still distinctly alien. Taller than any human, with sleek, metallic armor and glowing circuits that pulsed with energy. A fierce firefight erupted. The resistance fought with everything they had, using guerrilla tactics to outmaneuver their technologically superior foes. The Velker, overconfident in their invincibility, struggled to counter the humans' unpredictable strategies. Elena herself took down 2 soldiers with well-placed shots before calling for the team to retreat. As they exited the plant, the explosions they had set went off in a chain reaction. The sky lit up with fire and smoke as the facility crumbled. It was a small victory, but it sent a powerful message. Humanity was not going down without a fight. The success of the mission boosted morale among the resistance, but it also came with a cost. One of their own, a young man named Samir, had been critically injured during the escape. Elena sat by his side as he fought to breathe, his face pale and drenched in sweat. "Did we get them, Captain?" he asked weakly. Elena nodded, gripping his hand tightly. "We did, Samir. You helped make that happen." He smiled faintly before closing his eyes, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. The room was silent, the weight of loss hanging heavy. Amid the devastation, hope emerged in the form of Maya, a young girl who had been rescued during an earlier raid. Maya had lost her entire family to the Velker bombardments, but despite her grief, she refused to give up. She spent her days helping the resistance in any way she could, whether by assisting with repairs or simply keeping spirits high with her unwavering optimism. Alina found herself drawn to Maya, seeing in her a resilience that mirrored humanity's struggle. One evening, as they sat by a small fire, Maya spoke softly. "Do you think they'll leave us alone someday?" Alina paused, her gaze fixed on the dancing flames. "I don't know, Maya. But what I do know is that we won't stop fighting until they do." Maya nodded, her small hands clutching a worn photograph of her family. "My mom used to say that even in the darkest times, we have to be the light. I think that's what you're doing, Captain. You're the light." Alina's throat tightened. She placed a hand on Maya's shoulder, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "No, Maya, you're the light. You remind us why we're fighting." As the resistance continued their efforts, the Velker began to take notice. Supremus analyzed the growing number of sabotage incidents, its tone cold and calculating. Humans exhibit unexpected resilience. Their actions are illogical yet effective. They must be neutralized. Despite the looming threat, the resistance pressed on, emboldened by their small victories. They hijacked Velker's supply hubs, stealing energy cores and materials to create improvised EMP bombs. These bombs became a game changer, disabling Velker machines and giving humans a fighting chance in direct confrontations. In one particularly daring mission, Alina led her team into a Velker-controlled zone to retrieve critical components. The operation was meticulously planned, but things went awry when an unexpected patrol cornered them in a narrow alley. The resistance fought fiercely, using the cloaking device to evade detection and strike from the shadows. The battle was chaotic, with explosions and gunfire echoing through the streets. Alina's leadership and quick thinking saved the team, but the narrow escape left them shaken. Back at their hideout, Maya greeted them with a bright smile and a pot of warm stew she had prepared using whatever scraps she could find. Her presence reminded them of what they were fighting for, a future where children like her could live without fear. Alina knew that their journey was far from over. The Velkyr were relentless, and the odds remained stacked against them. But with each victory, no matter how small, humanity proved that they would not be broken. And as long as they had hope, they would continue to fight. Commander Xalter stood before the vast holographic map of Earth, projected in the command chamber of the Velkyr flagship. The room was silent except for the hum of machinery. On the map, red markers represented Velkyr's strongholds and operations, but blue and green dots, the scattered remnants of human resistance, seemed to grow every day. It was an insult to Velkyr's supremacy, and Xalter's patience was wearing thin. "How is this possible?" Xalter growled, his metallic voice tinged with frustration. His sleek, armored form cast a long shadow as he turned to Supremus, the AI overseeing the invasion. Supremus's glowing form materialized beside him, its tone calm and condescending. "Your forces are efficient, Commander, but your strategy is flawed. You fail to comprehend the human irrational will. They do not fear death as we do. They see meaning in defiance, even in the face of certain annihilation." Xalter's circuits flared briefly, a physical manifestation of his irritation. "Spare me your lectures, Supremus. I want results. Deploy more units to crush their strongholds." "Already done," Supremus replied coolly. "But brute force alone will not suffice. Humans thrive in adversity. Their defiance is their strength." Despite Xalter's orders, the Velkyr forces found themselves stretched thin. The resistance, though vastly outnumbered, struck with precision and creativity, exploiting every weakness in the Velkyr's seemingly flawless system. One such attack destroyed a key energy relay, causing disruptions across several Velkyr-controlled sectors. Xalter, determined to uncover the source of humanity's resilience, made a bold decision. He would observe the humans himself. With Supremus's assistance, he assumed a human-like disguise, a tall, muscular man with piercing eyes and an air of authority. His objective was simple: infiltrate the resistance and understand the source of their irrational will to fight. The infiltration was easier than he anticipated. Posing as a displaced survivor, Zalter found himself among a small group of human refugees seeking shelter at one of Elena's hidden outposts. Despite his initial contempt for their disheveled appearance and primitive ways, he couldn't help but notice the warmth and camaraderie they shared. Over the next few days, Zalter witnessed acts of selflessness that challenged everything he believed. He watched as an injured man gave his last ration to a starving child. He observed a young woman, barely able to walk, volunteering to help fortify the bunker walls. And then there was Elena, whose leadership and unwavering determination inspired hope in even the most broken souls. One evening, as the group gathered around a makeshift fire, Maya approached him. The little girl's eyes, filled with curiosity and resilience, locked onto his. "Do you have a family?" she asked innocently. Zalter hesitated. "No," he replied, his voice softer than intended. "My family is gone too," Maya said, clutching her worn photograph. "But Captain Elena says we're all family now. We take care of each other." Her words lingered in Zalter's mind, creating a ripple of doubt. Could this irrational bond between humans be the key to their strength? Before he could dwell further, an alarm blared throughout the bunker. The Velkir were launching a counteroffensive. Elena's voice cut through the chaos, commanding her team into action. "Everyone, to your stations. We've trained for this. Remember, we fight smart, not hard." The attack was unlike anything the Resistance had faced before. The Velkir had unleashed biomechanical war beasts, towering, grotesque creatures with metallic limbs and organic bodies, bred for destruction. Their roars echoed through the underground chambers as they tore through walls with terrifying ease. The bunker became a battlefield. Elena's team, armed with only conventional weapons and their ingenuity, set to work. Using the narrow corridors to their advantage, they funneled the beasts into choke points where they had placed improvised explosives. The Resistance fought with everything they had. Traps were triggered with perfect timing, causing massive explosions that brought down sections of the bunker on top of the creatures. Elena led the charge, coordinating movements and keeping morale high. Zalter, still in disguise, found himself in the thick of the battle. He fought alongside the humans, using a rifle to take down smaller Velkir drones. He felt an unfamiliar sensation. Adrenaline, the rush of combat, and something deeper, a sense of purpose. During the chaos, one of the war beasts broke through a weakened wall, cornering Maya and a few others. Without thinking, Zalter sprang into action, using his inhuman strength to push a collapsing beam onto the creature, crushing it. "Are you okay?" he asked Maya, his voice laced with genuine concern. She nodded, her small hands trembling but her resolve unbroken. "You saved us." As the battle raged on, the Resistance managed to drive the Velkir forces back. The bunker was damaged but still standing. Exhausted but victorious, the group gathered to assess their losses and plan their next move. Zalter retreated to a quiet corner, his mind racing. Everything he had witnessed contradicted the Velkir doctrine. Humans were not weak or irrational. Their emotions, the very thing the Velkir despised, were their greatest strength. For the first time, Zalter began to question his purpose. Perhaps Supremus was wrong. Perhaps the Velkir were the ones who lacked understanding. The Resistance had no illusions about their chances. The Velkir mothership loomed in orbit like a malevolent sentinel, its metallic surface bristling with weaponry. It was an impenetrable fortress, the heart of the enemy, and their only shot at turning the tide. Elena stood before her team in the dimly lit hideout, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "This is it. We've studied their patterns, their weaknesses. The cloaking technology gives us a slim chance to infiltrate. Once inside, we plant the virus and take out Supremus. If we fail, it's the end." Maya, now a crucial member of the team, nodded with quiet determination. Over the months, she had transformed from a grieving child into a tech prodigy, her small hands deftly coding the virus that would disable Supremus. "I've finished the encryption," she said, holding up a small device. "This will overload their systems and give us a fighting chance." The plan was audacious, almost suicidal, but desperation had bred ingenuity. Using their cloaking device, the Resistance crafted a small stealth shuttle. Its hull was patched with scavenged materials, and its power source barely functional, but it was enough to get them to the mothership undetected. As they approached the towering structure, the tension in the cabin was palpable. Alina looked at her team. Fighters, engineers, and survivors, each one ready to risk everything. "Whatever happens," she said, "we've already shown them what it means to be human. Let's make this count." The shuttle slipped through the mothership's defense perimeter, bypassing automated turrets and drone patrols. Once inside, the team disembarked in a zero-gravity corridor, their movements precise and calculated. The silence was broken by the hum of Valkyr patrols. Alina gestured for the team to split up, each group tasked with planting explosives and securing key points. The virus needed to be uploaded directly into Supremus's core, deep within the ship. The Resistance moved quickly, but the Valkyr were not idle. An alarm blared as a drone detected their presence. The corridor erupted into chaos, with plasma fire lighting up the darkness. The Resistance fought back fiercely, using their knowledge of the ship's layout to gain the upper hand. Amidst the battle, Bonner's recorded voice crackled over the Valkyr communication systems. His words, broadcast worldwide, were defiant and unyielding. "This is our moment. We are not just fighting for survival. We are fighting for the very essence of what it means to be human. Stand together, and we will endure." The message reached survivors across the planet. In hidden bunkers and shattered cities, people rallied, launching their own attacks on Valkyr forces. The Resistance's last stand became a global uprising. Inside the mothership, the team pushed forward, their numbers dwindling with each skirmish. Alina and Maya led the final group towards Supremus's core, a vast chamber filled with glowing circuitry and pulsating energy conduits. Waiting for them was Halter, his metallic armor gleaming under the cold light. He removed his human-like disguise, revealing his true form. A towering figure of sleek metal and organic components, his eyes glowing with a mixture of rage and conflict. "You've come far, humans," he said, his voice resonating with authority. "But this ends here." Alina stepped forward, her weapon trained on him. "We're not afraid of you, Xalter. You might have technology, but we have something you'll never understand." Xalter hesitated, memories of the selflessness and unity he had witnessed among humans flooding his mind. He raised his weapon, but found himself unable to pull the trigger. "Why?" he asked, his voice softer now. "Why do you fight, knowing you cannot win?" Alina lowered her weapon slightly. "Because fighting for what's right is worth any cost. Because every life matters, even yours." Her words struck a chord. Xalter had spent his existence enforcing the cold, calculated will of the Valkyr Empire, but now he felt a crack in his convictions. In that moment of hesitation, Maya stepped forward, holding the virus device. "I can end this," she whispered. Xalter looked at her, the smallest of humans, yet carrying the weight of her species' survival. He stepped aside. "Do what you must," he said, his voice heavy with resignation. Maya inserted the device into Supremus's core. The chamber erupted in blinding light as the virus spread through the system. Supremus's voice, once calm and omnipotent, now crackled with panic. "System compromised. Impossible." Alina grabbed Maya, pulling her back as the core began to destabilize. "We need to move. Now." The team fought their way back to the shuttle as the mothership descended into chaos. Explosions rocked the vessel, tearing through its structure. Xalter remained behind, watching as the empire he had served crumbled around him. The shuttle escaped just in time, the team barely surviving the blast as the mothership disintegrated in orbit. On Earth, the sight of the Valkyr's defeat sparked cheers of hope and victory. Humanity had won, not through strength, but through unity and resilience. Alina looked at Maya, who held the worn photograph of her family. "You did it," Elena said, her voice filled with pride. Maya smiled, her tears reflecting the light of a new dawn. "We all did." The sky above Earth was a patchwork of hope and sorrow. The once mighty Velker mothership lay in pieces, its fiery remnants scattering across the atmosphere like falling stars. The invincible oppressors, broken by a species they deemed inferior, had retreated into the void. But the victory came at a cost too great to measure. The cities of Earth were little more than charred skeletons of their former glory. Towering skyscrapers that once reached for the heavens now lay crumbled. Streets where laughter and life thrived were silent except for the distant cries of survivors searching for loved ones. The Earth itself seemed to mourn, shrouded in ash and smoke. Elena stood amidst the ruins, her body battered but her spirit unbroken. Around her, the remnants of the resistance gathered. Their faces bore the weight of loss and the flicker of triumph. Tears flowed freely, some for the friends and family they had lost, others for the sheer relief that it was finally over. Maya clutched the small recording device that held Bonner's final message. His voice, filled with defiance and hope, had rallied humanity in its darkest hour. She turned to Elena, her young face etched with both determination and sorrow. "What will happen now?" she asked softly. Elena knelt beside her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We rebuild, Maya. For every life lost, we honor them by continuing, by ensuring their sacrifice wasn't in vain." Maya nodded, her small hands trembling as she placed the recording into a weathered metal capsule. "This," she said, her voice breaking, "is for the future, so they'll never forget." The capsule was sealed and buried beneath a makeshift monument in the heart of what was once a bustling city. The monument, crafted from the remains of a Velker drone, stood as a symbol of resilience. Inscribed on its surface were the words, "We endure." Elena addressed the crowd that had gathered, her voice carrying over the ruins. "Today, we stand broken but unbowed. They came to test us, to see if we were worthy of existence. We answered not with fear, but with courage. Not with surrender, but with defiance. They thought they could extinguish us, but we showed them the fire of humanity. We are survivors. We are rebuilders. And we are united." Cheers erupted, mingled with sobs. It wasn't the celebration of a grand victory, but the acknowledgement of a hard-fought survival. Far away, amidst the cold, dark void of space, Zalter piloted a solitary craft. His armor, once pristine, now bore the marks of battle and exile. For the first time in his existence, he was without purpose, a rogue wanderer cast out by the Velker for his failure. Yet he felt no regret. In the quiet solitude of his vessel, he began chronicling his experiences. He recorded his observations of humanity, their stubbornness, their unity, their maddening refusal to give up. He titled the archive, "The Spirit of Earth." His words were not just a record, but a challenge to Velker's society. "They are more than flesh and bone," he wrote. "They are fire, unyielding in the face of the void. To dismiss their worth is to ignore what makes existence meaningful." Zalter's writings found their way into the Velker network, sparking debates and quiet whispers of dissent. Among the ranks of the Velker, seeds of rebellion began to take root. Some began to question the cold, mechanical philosophy that had guided their empire for millennia. Others saw the possibility of coexistence, of learning from humanity instead of destroying them. Back on Earth, the rebuilding had begun. Communities rose from the ashes, their bonds stronger than ever. Maya worked tirelessly, using her newfound knowledge of technology to help restore what was lost. Elena walked among the people, offering words of encouragement and guidance. She was no longer just a leader of the resistance. She was a symbol of hope, a reminder of what humanity could achieve when united. As she stood before the monument, the setting sun casting a warm glow over the ruins, she whispered to herself, "They thought they could break us. Instead, they made us stronger." In the distance, children laughed as they played among the rubble, their voices echoing like a melody of renewal. Despite everything, life went on. And in the endless expanse of space, Xualter stared out at the stars, wondering if the Velker would ever truly understand the lesson humanity had taught him. For now, he carried their spirit within him, a flame in the darkness, guiding his uncertain path forward. The battle was over, but the story of humanity's resilience was only beginning.